Good morning, evening, or night, wherever you are. Welcome to WHAM today. Take a deep breath, clear your mind, and let's drift through the whispers of today's world, one quiet thought at a time. As we wrap up Saturday, 16th August 25, let's see what stories are unfolding around us. India's stock market saw a surge, fueled by optimism regarding potential GST reforms and proposed tax cuts on small cars by Prime Minister Modi, particularly benefiting the auto and consumer durables sectors. The Nifty 50 closed at 24,876.95, a 1% increase, and the Sensex rose 676 points to 80,1273.75. The Nifty 50 exceeded 25,000, with 156 stocks hitting 52-week highs. Market analysts predict that upcoming corporate earnings and possible RBI rate cuts before Diwali 2025 could further improve market performance. The gems and jewelry sector, however, is wary of potential U.S. tariffs that could threaten jobs. GSLV steel stock has remained strong, increasing by nearly 8.89% over 6 months and over 16% in 1 year, even with market fluctuation. Vikram Solar is planning an IPO to finance capacity expansion and enter the battery energy storage system market, aiming to lead India's solar market despite volatile exports. The National Stock Exchange of India, NSE, settled a data sharing case with the market's regulator for $4.60 million. Trader Rahul Mathur is utilizing AI to transform futures and options strategies. External Affairs Minister WHAM Jaishankar will visit Moscow to discuss trade with Sergei Lavrov amidst worries about potential U.S. tariffs. Turning to United States, India relations, trade is facing strain. A U.S. trade advisor has indicated that India must cease its purchase of Russian oil. This statement follows criticism from President Trump's advisor, Peter Navarro, who described India's acquisition of Russian crude as opportunistic and coincides with reports of cancelled trade negotiations between the two nations. China's stock market has surged to a decade high, fueled by easing tariff tensions and investors rotating funds. This rally occurs against a backdrop of market liberalization, which has also contributed to record capital outflows. Home buyers in mainland China, however, show little interest in recent policy relaxations, anticipating further price decline. Infrastructure development is expected to be a key investment driver in the coming months. In the tech sector, Huahong Semiconductor will acquire equity interests in Shanghai Huali Microelectronics, and Cambrican Technologies plans to raise US $560 for AI chip development. Unitree Robotics, an ex-humanoid, achieved top rankings at the World Humanoid Robot Games in Beijing. Lead Motor stock and sales are soaring, establishing it as a rising IV market competitor. Great Wall is expanding its automotive presence by opening a car plant in Brazil and actively seeking a location for a second facility. Xtep International Holdings reported a surge in interim earnings, driven by the increased popularity of running in China. Hotmart's Labibus is enhancing China's soft power as Beijing brands gain international recognition. Pharmaceutical companies Hengrui and Hansoh are projected to announce strong first-half profits. China has extended its probe into EU dairy imports for another 6 months. Dongfeng Motor intends to sell its 50% stake in a joint venture with Honda. Facing a cash crunch, China is increasing its global tax enforcement, imposing a 20% levy on investors. China has apparently ceased publishing details of its rare earth mining and refining quotas, potentially escalating tensions in the U.S.-China trade war. United States. Logitech Apex Stefan Hofer anticipates a potential weakening of the U.S. dollar during the Trump administration. White House Special Envoy Steve Witkoff reported that Russia agreed to provide Article 5-like security guarantees for Ukraine, following a meeting between President Donald Trump and the Russian president in Alaska. Another Trump advisor, Navarro, stated that India must cease purchasing Russian crude oil. Jin Qian, vice president of the Asia Society, is analyzing the relationship between the United States and China. Despite geopolitical tensions, U.S. farmers are increasingly using Chinese drones, specifically those from DJI, due to their affordability and specialized agricultural functions. Russia. Sanctions have caused Russian shipping giant Sovcomflot to become unprofitable. An accident in the Ryazan region of Russia led to at least 20 deaths and 134 injuries. A new Russian decree may enable Exxon to return to the Sakhalin-1 project. Russia claims to have destroyed 300 Ukrainian drones and struck Sapsan missile storage sites. It also reports thwarting a Ukrainian drone attack targeting the Smolensk nuclear power plant. Ukraine. U.S. President Donald Trump claimed that Ukrainian President Zelensky could quickly end the war with Russia if he desired. Russia has escalated its attacks on Kharkiv, while Trump is encouraging Kyiv to negotiate a resolution with Moscow. A Trump envoy, Steve Witkoff, alleges that Putin agreed to allow the U.S. and Europe to offer NATO-style security protections for Ukraine. Oil prices. Following the meeting between the U.S. and Russian presidents, oil prices decreased as the U.S. did not apply further pressure on Russia to end the war in Ukraine. The global stage is set for pivotal discussions, with world shares reflecting investor caution ahead of significant events. The United States is preparing to host a crucial meeting in Washington, D.C., where President Donald Trump will engage with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and other European leaders, with the latter seeking firm U.S. support for Ukraine amidst ongoing geopolitical tension. This anticipation has had a ripple effect, contributing to a decrease in European gas prices. Turning to Europe, the mixed opening of European stocks reflects the market's uncertainty. Traders are meticulously watching the developments surrounding the Ukraine talks, carefully balancing them with insights gleaned from the Jackson Hole Economic Symposium. Despite the backdrop of trade uncertainties, European ETFs are experiencing increased investor interest. In Germany, St. George Mining is broadening its European footprint through a dual listing on the Frankfurt Stock Exchange, signaling confidence in the region's market. New developments in artificial intelligence are also influencing European adopter stocks, highlighting the intersection of technology and finance. Saudi Arabia's financial landscape is buzzing with activity as bank lending hits a record $850 billion, fueled by corporate and real estate appetite. BlackRock celebrated an $11 billion victory in the country, while Sohar International is poised to enter the advisory business within the kingdom. New rules for foreign investment in the main market are now active, but the Capital Market Authority, CMA, caps foreign ownership at 49%. Fitch Ratings has affirmed Saudi Arabia's credit rating at R with a stable outlook. The Public Investment Fund, PIF, is navigating headwinds, including $8 billion write-down in its megaproject. Gina Reinhardt Hancock Prospecting is exploring expansion into Saudi Arabia with a tenements deal. A former Vice Minister of Health in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has joined TVM Capital Healthcare, underscoring the country's expanding healthcare sector. Meanwhile, Saudi Arabia is investigating issues at the world's largest construction site. Al Hilal, a Saudi football club, tops regional brand rankings thanks to heavy investment in international players. A Barcelona star declined a €100 million per season offer from the country, highlighting Saudi Arabia's push to attract international football stars. Ukraine remains at the forefront of international attention as peace talks continue. However, President Zelensky has firmly rejected any territorial concessions to Russia. He insists on regaining all Ukrainian land, currently under Russian control. Simultaneously, Ukraine has claimed responsibility for attacks on a Russian airbase and a convoy in Kursk. These attacks reportedly injured a deputy commander of Moscow's North grouping. Meanwhile, Russia is intensifying its bombing campaign within Ukraine. Russian President Putin has offered a potential peace agreement outline. However, its terms are at odds with Ukraine's stated goals. Former U.S. President Trump's potential peace plan is also being scrutinized, especially regarding its alignment with Zelensky's objectives. Europe reportedly has reservations concerning Trump's potential involvement in the peace process. Emerging markets are exhibiting stability amid the ongoing peace talks. India's stock market is currently demonstrating strong performance, outperforming other markets. Japan's economy has shown surprising strength, growing faster than anticipated in the second quarter. Riding this wave, the Nikkei stock average soared to record peaks, propelled by strong performances from companies such as fast retailing and various automakers, all benefiting from a weaker yen. Itochu is reportedly initiating talks for a possible partnership with the banking arm of 7-Eleven. Despite market rumors, Japan maintains that the United States isn't exerting pressure on the Bank of Japan, to hike interest rates. Expanding its footprint, Donkey's operator intends to launch 250 new stores to capitalize on rising tourism. Adding to its appeal, Tokyo has been named the leading city for workcations in 2025, as highlighted in a recent report by the International Workplace Group. Amidst mixed performance in Asian stock markets, with Japan and China gaining while South Korea's tech sector dipped, attention turns to Malaysia. The state of Johor in Malaysia, a burgeoning data center hub, grapples with surging water and energy demands fueled by the artificial intelligence revolution. Meanwhile, across the globe in the United States, discussions are planned between U.S. President Trump and Ukrainian President Zelensky, with high expectations surrounding the issues to be addressed during their meeting. Australia is currently focused on boosting economic growth. The Productivity Commission chair advocates for a growth mindset. Operational problems in the gas market require adaptable regulations. National Australia Bank's now solid performance is helping lift Australian shares. St. George has listed on the Frankfurt Stock Exchange, specializing in high-grade rare earths. Nexon Tire has launched its Rhodian ATX in Australia, targeting SUV and pickup truck owners. South Korean shares dipped, dragged down by chip stocks reacting to possible US tariffs. Meanwhile, the Financial Supervisory Service introduced a new system to investigate unfair transactions as NextTrade expands its operations in the country. JU city authorities are actively working to locate and seize cryptocurrency holdings of suspected tax evaders. Shifting to energy, nuclear power generation in South Korea has increased substantially, while coal consumption has declined. Cryptocurrency exchange Upbit has acquired 100 corporate clients for its crypto transaction offerings. In other news, South Korea is currently experiencing a resurgence of hot weather. While South Africa's economy presents a complex picture of growth and challenges. Farm exports to the U.S. surged 26% ahead of looming tariff uncertainties. The country's bonds are proving attractive, drawing foreign investment thanks to high returns in the emerging market landscape. A major South African telecom player announced strong first-half profits and increased its financial outlook. An upcoming interest rate adjustment is widely expected. Adding to the economic activity, artisanal miners in South Africa are aiming to capitalize on the burgeoning critical minerals sector. Israel is facing increased financial scrutiny as Norway's sovereign wealth fund divests from Israeli companies amid rising international concerns over the Gaza conflict and Prime Minister Netanyahu's handling of the situation. Concurrently, internal dissent is growing, with thousands of Israelis protesting nationwide, urging the government to prioritize a hostage release agreement. These demonstrations have been met with police intervention, including the use of water cannons and arrests. Switzerland is seeing significant financial activity as Advent International is poised to acquire U-Blocks in a $1.30 billion cash deal. A separate proposal in Switzerland to eliminate the marriage penalty tax is stirring debate about the definition of family values. Hong Kong's insurance sector is embracing technological advancement, with major companies planning to establish AI centers to foster innovations within the region. Thailand is adapting to the digital economy, now allowing foreign tourists to exchange cryptocurrency for Thai baht. Investment strategies are in focus in Canada, with analysts identifying 3 Canadian stocks for long-term portfolios and devising strategies for maximizing returns from a $14,000 tax-free savings account. TFSA. Germany's Börse Frankfurt is reporting strong performance from German growth stocks this year. Furthermore, apartment building permits saw a 7.9% increase in June, despite underlying instability in the sector. Analysts in Malaysia are forecasting continued appreciation of the Malaysian currency, driven by expectations of forthcoming interest rate cuts. Japan's Nikkei stock index has reached a historic high, propelled by a weaker yen that particularly benefits the automotive industry. The United States is hosting 7 European Union leaders who are advocating for continued U.S. support for Ukraine. The United States possesses only one sovereign wealth fund. Hurricane Erin has strengthened to a Category 4 storm, approaching the southeast Bahamas and creating hazardous surf conditions along the U.S. coast. Asian stocks saw gains ahead of discussions between the U.S. president and the Ukrainian president. New Zealand's At2 Milk is set to acquire a formula plant, aiming to leverage growth opportunities within the Chinese market. Baby Bunting has also reported positive earnings in New Zealand. Nigeria's equities market is experiencing headwinds, facing challenges related to port delays and inconsistencies across various sectors. President Putin held discussions with Belarus and Kazakhstan regarding a potential summit with the former U.S. president. Oman's banking sector is expanding, with bank credit growing by 8.4% and listed companies reporting a 14% increase in profits. Indonesia's newly elected president plans to utilize state resources to stimulate economic expansion. Uganda's first ever 25-year treasury bond has yielded unexpected results. And that's a wrap for today's news, because even headlines need a nap. Stay curious, stay kind, and let the noise fade as you find your quiet. Take care, stay awesome, and I'll see you next time on WHAM Today.